huge here.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about model groups and or groups and links and kind of the differences between them. We could spend hours on this, so I'm going to have a little bit of a focus, and it's going to be more on a workflow, but I am going to cover a little bit differences between groups and links, when to use the two. Some of them are hard, fast rules, or others are philosophies to get into that. So in here today we'll be looking at the use of model groups and detail groups, creating a link from the group, and this will be going into more of my workflow of trying to do links, make groups links and links groups to kind of have a nice flow throughout your project as we're working through it, and that'll be converting the two from one to the other, identify the pros and cons between the groups and links, and then talk about some alternatives to groups and links altogether. Maybe you want to do families instead. That'll solve the issue you're having, including nested families. And another idea that popped up was selection sets, because a lot of us just want to have a way of grabbing all that stuff at the same time. So that's kind of the road we're working on in here. And so the next part, I'm just going to get into a little bit of the PowerPoint and talk about a little bit on what is a group. How do we make a group? So here I have a selection of something that would be a nice group. It is a unit plan. You can see it's unit 4. And within this unit, we've just selected everything. That's why it's turning blue. And from there, we can make a group from it. Basically, after you selected more than one object, and it doesn't matter what kind of object it is, you can make that a group. You can go over this little icon, you select it, you hit it, make group, and then from that dialog, it's going to open up one other place in here, and you can make a model group or an attached detail group. So it allows us to come in and create these groups, very similar to AutoCAD. And that's probably the hang-up when I bring up AutoCAD that we have in there. That we have this mentality that we did in AutoCAD, it's the same way in here in Revit, and we're going to talk about why it isn't the same in Revit. We're going to have a little bit different way of thinking about this as we're going through that. Looks like we have a pretty good list of people, and the list is getting bigger and bigger, so that's good. I'm glad a lot of you are out there and find this interesting. I wasn't sure if this topic would resonate with anybody or not. All right. Within the groups, and again, just talking about a little bit of the workflow here, we've got defining the origin points. You can see here, there's this little XY area, this little dot in here. We define that origin. That's part of when we establish the group. After you've made it, you want to put that origin point in place. And that's something that a lot of people, not a lot, but some people might forget about. You want to have a good place of putting this origin in, especially if we're going to start using this in a multifamily or some kind of scenario where we're using this for grouping multi-story buildings, or we're going to have different unit plans that we're going to run around. Maybe we're doing labs in a hospital or doing hospital rooms, different ways of looking about this, okay? In addition to that, it's going to come in, it's going to create that model group and that detail group within Revit. So you can see here there's a couple little model groups, and then we also have a Revit link in here that flows below. So that's where you're going to manage those. You can also drag and drop those groups into Revit just from moving that in there, and we'll start looking at some of that workflow in a second. In addition to that, we have ways of how do you edit the groups? Well, you go in, you select those groups, you can hit edit group, and then you can add elements, remove elements, different things like that. So just kind of a general overflow of groups themselves. All right. Now, next one we're getting into is kind of the main part of groups. When to use them? When do we want to start looking at groups for our project? So I like to talk about them, especially I love the fact that I'll play with them in the early phases of my project. So schematic design, design development, and it might even carry into construction documents, but we'll talk about when that's appropriate, when that isn't appropriate. But groups are great for this workflow where I can go in, I can be working in the model, I can have the groups in there, and I can be changing things, and it makes a nice workflow. I change one, it changes the rest, at least in theory. Those of you who worked in that might know that, that once in a while we get other groups that result out of things we do. They're good for typical rooms or unit layouts. That's a bulk of what we're going to be trying to focus on today, is that we want to have this idea that, hey, I want to speed up this process, so I'm doing this multifamily building, or I'm doing a hotel or something like that. I want to be able to control all these elements as one. So if I have plan A, plan B, plan C, I want to be able to take advantage of that. We'll look at a little bit of a workflow here that was something I picked up from some other people on a very convenient way of getting that done. Other things, vertical circulation is a great one to have for grouping those together with your CMU walls, things of that nature. That's a nice workflow for putting that together. Also, it's out there, and not all these are just my opinions. I picked up from other sound individuals out there. I'll give credit where credit's due at the very end for that. But storefront curtain walls, wall panels, add that one in there. That we can group in there. So we might have different wall systems and stuff that we're putting as groups throughout our project. And I say selection sets as alternatives might be applicable for what you want to do. If you just want to select something, having something as a selection set is a great way of doing that. Complex furniture with door-window combos, things of that nature, would probably be good for groups. It depends. We can get into, if I'm just grouping two pieces of furniture together, a family might be more appropriate for that. We'll look at that in a little bit. Also, setting up legends, that's another big key right now for looking at that. And then have out there bold and in red, updating links. So we can use groups to change our links. We're going to talk about the links in a little bit. Okay, so we've got the groups. That's great, good time. When to use them. When not to use them. Hosted elements do not contain their host. That's if you've got a light and you're not grabbing the ceiling, not a good time to use a group. For that, you're going to get different errors that pop up. It's such as the one above, instance origin does not lie on host face. Yeah, you're going to get some really weird errors like that, and that's a big, uh-oh, now what's going on? You kind of hose your what you've been working on for a little bit. Anything that you have to build with for a long time that takes a long time to edit or create that group with, that's not necessarily going to always be a good group to work with that. Rule of thumb out there, I'm hearing anything from 15 minutes to a half hour, so 20 minutes seems to be a really good workflow to get that done in there. Construction documents on large projects. So construction documents in general, probably not a great thing to have groups in all the time. But construction documents, especially on large projects, you're going to want to keep those groups down to a minimum, and we'll look at other ways of getting the workflow that we need done. Now, sometimes the group is the best option for you. That's the best option for you, but we want to eliminate all the other stuff out there. Large floor plans or layouts. So if you have one long, big floor, 40,000 square foot of equipment and furniture and all this other stuff, you want to get rid of those groups out of there. Things that can be, and this is kind of the aha moments for things that can be done as families out there. If you can build it as a family, build it as a family. Do not rely on groups. This is kind of playing back to the AutoCAD mentality that in AutoCAD you draw 4 lines and group them together, and that'd be a table. Then you'd grab your table and do a bunch of other lines and make that a bed, and then group the bed group with the table group together and call that, bedroom arrangement 1. Well, that was great in AutoCAD. Revit, no, that's not what we want to do. That's not how this is intended. When we're doing groups of that nature, you're going to want to build families and stuff. And then another thing I'm seeing a lot of is only one group. And a lot of this comes, again, just looking around, seeing what people are doing out there in industry, things that are doing good, things that are doing bad. One thing that Stan and I are doing a lot of now are these health checks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this is coming from those health checks that we've been doing, looking at people, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and consistently across the board, groups and links is becoming issues on how to handle those. So this might develop into more stuff in here. Again, this is a general overview, but we might do more webinars on this particular topic.
And just so you know, the health checks basically, since I'm a sales guy, that's what I do.
You are? Yeah.
And basically, we developed the health checks around the idea that so many people call us all the time saying, I've been using Revit or Civil 3D or whatever for 3-4 years now. Are we doing this right? It seems like we're having these issues or whatever. Could you come out and sit down with us and just run through our process? So, yeah, that's been a real popular tool to help people kind of sort out some of this stuff lately. Anyway, that gave you a chance to get your breath and and chew on a little apple sour licorice thing.
Oh yeah, I got to get some of that out there. All right. So next we'll talk about links, large projects with work sets. It's a great time to be using links to develop those. I put in there consultants, like a no-duh. Yeah, we know you're bringing in structure. It's going to be bringing in as a link. But I just want to throw it out there, yes, to get people understanding. Yeah, those are links. They're also going to be work sets too, so your consultant stuff's going to be out there. When you move into construction document phase, so from going from your schematic, your DD, getting into the CDs, when things are locked in, you don't have to make as many drastic changes to units and plans. Everything's been kind of formulated. Everything's kind of gelling together, as it were. You can come up with an idea, and only minor changes are going to be being done. On top of that, it's going to be kind of an organization on dividing the workload and stuff. So we'll talk about problems and things that might happen. Not really problems, but workflow issues you're going to have to do. You can now tag through rooms and do keynotes. If tags become orphaned, you can also reconcile the hosting, which has been great for anybody on 2012. So if you're on older versions, unfortunately, you can't do that. Can't tag rooms and things like that. But now we can do it within Revit. Is nice. Views by links, and we'll get into that. That's a little diagram over here. So we can get into setting up our views by the links and seeing what's going on with that, and updating the blocks, updating the groups. That's what there's a little typo there. Not updating blocks. I was in AutoCAD mode. I'm in there this week. But updating groups. So we can use a link to update the group, and we saw earlier we can do groups to update the links. Okay. Link system breakdown. So when we're dealing with tall projects, this project I've done in the past, when we're dealing with something that's got some height or something to it, so outdoor skid would be one type of link that we put in there. The core would be other parts. That'd be your elevators and things like that. The systems that's running through up and down, the circulation, things like that. We'd also do the floor podiums as one link, and the floor plate intermediate as others. So your room-to-rooms would be one, but then your structural elements in between would be another, because they're having different ceiling heights that we have to contend with. All right, large area projects. So this is going to be one that's going to span a lot of distance in here. And here we've got Paseo Clubs in California.
Yes.
One I did before.
Anything with lots of swimming pools should have links in it.
I think anything with a golf course should have a lot of links.
That's
in it.
true.
So here we have, it's a sprawling project. You might go in here and set up area 1, area 2, area 3 that has different types of tennis courts out there. Yeah. So we've got ways of doing that. So each area would become its own link, and then you might break those down into individual. And this goes for both projects. Use your work sets the same way as the links. I had to do that bold. That way I remembered what's going on. So that's kind of the difference between that and groups, a little bit that we'll see in here. So links, one of the things we talked about was looking at the overrides. And when you're bringing the groups, we can have the two links go between each other. So in here, you can see the visibility graphic overrides, the view templates in here. And if you look down towards the middle list, we've got our little links right in here. And we can go in and use each link by the linked view, and then that'll display, let's say you're a structural engineer, you want to see how the architects presented it, you can bring that view to show how the architect was representing that view just by selecting on that by link view and setting that up inside. So here's just a quick example of what you can do within the links itself. All right. So now we've got that. We're going to get on with the show, as it were, and jump into Revit and just kind of show a little bit of this. Okay.
Ryan, before you get going, let me do something that I feel is kind of important and give you a chance to catch your breath again, get a sip of water there. Just wanted to let you know we're pretty excited about a couple events we have coming up. On June the 14th, we have our what is typically our Customer Appreciation Day. It's our Design, Vision, and Innovation Conference this year, because we've really expanded it, and we're bringing in several industry speakers from Autodesk and other organizations, including the Vice President of Cloud Technologies from Autodesk and one of the Chief Technologists from Autodesk, to talk about where Autodesk is going with their technology and how they see it blending together and moving into the cloud. It really ought to be kind of a fascinating day, and then there'll be a lot of other fun there. And then the following week, on June 18th, right before the AIA National Convention here in Denver, Phil Bernstein, who is certainly one of the fathers of the BIM movement, CAD-1 is sponsoring him to speak at University of Denver on the future of technology and deliverables in the building industry. We saw this talk out in Las Vegas at a meeting out there about a month ago, and it was really, really fascinating. So we asked Mr. Bernstein if he wouldn't mind coming to Denver and giving the same presentation. And so both of these events will have publicity out shortly. You may have gotten an email today, as a matter of fact, and they're both on our website as well if you'd like to register. They're free, and all you need to do is register because the seating is limited, but they really ought to be both fascinating days. So with that, Mr. Juge.
All right. Well, here we've got a very simple project of a hotel, a motel, as it were. Some of you might recognize it, but I've got a couple groups in here. I've got a couple links, and I've got a couple just regular floor plans. So these first two, Unit 1, Unit 2, these are groups within the project. And then I've kind of made two links in the project, and we're going to see a little bit of the workflow in here. Now, one of the things to get in to this is, okay, first of all, how do we make groups? Well, I simply just come in, and I'm going to go in and just select all this stuff that I want as part of the group, and then I'm going to take out this window, and we'll see why in a second. Then I can go in. Once those are all selected, I simply come up, I go to the Create Group, and from here I would name this group. Now, what you're seeing inside here is I actually have the model group name and the attached detail group, and I think I'm going to cancel it here real quick, just make sure what I've got. So I've got some casework, I've got some furniture, plumbing fixtures, I got rooms, I got walls, and that's interesting. I'll talk about the walls in a second. And I also have the room tag. So the room tag in here is a group. So if I can come in here and hit OK to this, make it a group, and then I appear with the group name, and I'm just going to call this Unit C for the moment, and we'll see why in a second. And then the detail, I'm going to call this one room tag, because that's what I grabbed, so that's going to be the detail group. So now I can come in here, and I've made a group, and this is now group model C in here, and I can see that in my properties dialog, model C. And if I come down the bottom, you'll see I have unit A and C. Now, one of the interesting things, I'll put this in the middle of the screen right here, is my project browser, is that under C I have a plus sign, and that's because I now have the detail tag in here that I can go in and turn on and off within that. Now, I can actually add to that group. So if I were to come in and select this dimension stringer, I can actually group it, and it will come in that it's going directly into Unit C, but I now can make this another attached detail group. So I'm going to put this as vertical dimension real quick. So I've got the vertical dimension for part of that group, and then I can come in, I can actually select this group over here, or I'm sorry, this dimension stringer, it's just a regular dimension stringer, and if I group it, oh, no, I must be dimensioning something different, so I'll just do something else for a second. I'll just do another tag. So I'm going to come in here, and I've got some tags for some of this, and I've got a tub in here. We can see that tub that's already been pulled out above. But I'll just grab this one, and if I go to group it, it's automatically come in here, and I'll just call this as a tub tag for now. It's a technical word.
Tub tag, yeah.
Tub tag.
You learned that in second year architecture school.
That was year 2 architecture school. So I have those different types of tags in here. What's nice is now that I have different groups, I have this one as Unit A, and I have this one, even though they look the same, Unit C. I can select this group, and I can make it Unit C if I wanted to, and we'll see, oops, something happened. I've got it moved in the wrong spot. Remember when I talked about earlier, we want to make sure our origin point's the same with each group. Well, I didn't do that. I forgot to go in, and when I create that group, actually change the origin. So what's going on is it's the origin for group A. If I select group A, you'll see the origins here. If I go back to unit 3, you'll see the origins down here. The way to correct this is just come in, move this over to the corner just to make it the same as the others. I'm going to use my thin lines. That way I make sure it's in the right spot. So I'll come back in and select that group. Got it in the right spot in there. Now when I come in, I can grab this unit and make it unit A, go to unit C, and it appears in the right spot. It is now model unit C. What's nice about this, now that I have this in there, oops, so I'm going to delete rooms because I've got some other changes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I now have this unit plan. It's now using C, even though it's the same layout. But the nice part about it is now what's new for this group, because unit C had the attached detail groups, I'm going to come in here and select this, and I now have different versions. So if I wanted to, I can add those vertical dimensions just by clicking on this, and those dimension stringers are going to appear in the plan, going through the groups. I can go in there and turn that off, maybe do the tub tag, maybe do the room tag. We've already got those things in here, but this is going to be a very nice workflow for things going on. Okay. Another thing that we're seeing in here is that I'm going to come in and drag one of these units out. I'll just grab unit A. I'm going to just move it over to the blank space over here. Just by bringing it over just like this, I can drag that directly on the screen, and here I have a unit plan. I'm going to turn off my crop regions here for a second. Not show those. But here I have this unit plan. And one thing I want to show in here is that inside the unit itself, I've got some drywalls. So one of the workflows that we're looking at in here is that if I want this thing, and this is going to set up when I start to do links, and when I'm going to export this out as a link file, I want to be able to have the rooms form properly, but I don't want to disturb the other things that are going on for the rest of the house. If I need to have firewalls within my rooms or room separators, I'm going to keep those native. So all the structural elements, those will be as the main file, or those would be as a separate link or something like that. But the unit plan itself, well, simply what we've done is make a wall that's just, in this case, 2 layers of gyp, and put that in there. And then in addition to that, we put in openings that match the openings for, in this case, the door and the windows that are in the room. So I've got a window in the back, and I'll have an opening in the back behind the water closet. And for the door and the window in the front, I put an opening in there that lines in the same spot. And it's just kind of a great way of doing that. I could have used the join command and join the walls, but that's not going to work when I start turning this into links and things of that nature. So that's going to fail. So I use this process of creating a wall out of the gypboard layer that we can go in and handle the finishes. Number one, handle the finishes differently for the room, but then set it up so that the openings align to the openings with the rest of the project. So this is a very nice workflow that a lot of people are getting into and displaying it this way in here. So I'm going to come in, I'm just going to delete this guy real quick and get back in here. So you can see right now I'm able to group all these objects in. I've got some walls in here, those being the drywall walls. I can now have this room inside, which makes it great. If I go in, and I'm just going to make these both unit A's for a second, just to show you that if I go in and I make both of these, I'll make that one unit A, make this one over here unit A. At this point, it's not really, whoops, that's not a unit. This one over here, unit A, that was unit C. Now I can come in and I can go in and edit one of those groups. So if I go back to this unit A, go to edit group, and for some reason I take this chair and I want to rotate it, I can rotate it around, and then when I'm done, I just simply hit the finish, and I can see that replicate all the way through all those plans. So I have transpiring through all through that change is being replicated all the way around. Okay, and we have it in groups. In groups, I can still tag elements. So if I want to tag the tub, you can see the tub tag is on here. If I want to go tag the water closet, as long as it's been in there, I'll just simply go in, grab my tag, select on it, and oh, I didn't fill it out, but I've got that in there. Now I can just go in and label that So if I were to come into the group itself, give me a second here, I'm going to simply edit the group, go into the toilet, hit edit type, and in this time I'm just going to use type marks, but if I just put, WC for water, closet, put that in there, you can see it automatically filled it out already. Now I've got that tag inside and I'm able to get my process done. So this makes it really convenient to go in for the very schematic design phase. If I want to go and change, move walls around early on in my project, I'm able to get this workflow. So I can go in if I want to move walls, like I said, get that done, and I'm working within the project environment. Okay, and that's going to be one of our biggest things. But if at any point I can actually make this a link, and then I'm working on it outside the project. When we're working with groups in Revit, one of the biggest hang-ups is that groups slow Revit down. They're a big component for people having a lot of errors with my files not running fast, things aren't going on. And the weird part is, and I think Stan's aware of it at this point, is that it doesn't really add to the file size. So you make groups and you're looking at it and the file size doesn't get any bigger. But what's happening is your performance is just starting to drag and drag and drag. The other thing you're going to find is you start getting weird groups when you start copying and pasting these around. You're going to have Unit A, and then it'll say make a Unit A1. You're like, why is that different? So for whatever reason, XYZ, it puts out a different unit number for you. It creates another subset, and that's just kind of the nature within groups that is trying to maintain, but after a while starts making more and more groups within our project. And it looks like we had a pertinent question here.
Chris, yes. Chris asks, if the window location moves, do you need to realign the wall opening in the JIP board?
Yes, you do. That's a great question. So these openings that I created in here, and I'm just going to jump to a 3D view real quick. So you can see on both sides, I have the window up here in the front, but inside, and I'm going to go to one that's not a group right now, and that should be this unit here. So I have the window inside, but if I go inside the room and I get to the JIP wall, I have another opening in here. If I can select it. And it's a window opening. In this case, I'm using a door opening because I was using one for the door, both cases. But it aligns directly with that so that it's cutting through it. So yes, I'm going to have to go in and realign that to it at this case, but there could be a way to lock it and constrain it and try to get those to constrain to it, at least when we're working in this. So you have that alignment line, locking the constraints down would give a different way of controlling that. So it's a great question. Yes, I'm going to have to do that, but I think it's a minor sacrifice for what the power we get out of this, especially when now I can start using the finishes differently for each unit and setting them up, which makes it really nice. It's another little thing to get into. All right, so getting back into here, and see. Now I'm able to jump back in, and I was going to talk about links. Okay, so further finishing off the group thought is that when groups basically slow Revit down. Revit is not built to handle groups. So one of the ones that I see common is here's a furniture arrangement in here that's a group. It's 2 chairs and a table. Great. Could be a fine thing to do. Maybe this would have been better handled as a selection set, And I know this is 3 objects, very simple, but this could be more complicated. We're still getting the same results. You could also make these a family. So over here, I have the same thing, but as a family. Revit's going to understand this a lot more. So this piece of group here looks the same. Or very similar to the other one that's on there. It could be exactly the same. And what it is just a family. If we look at this, so I'm going to select this and go to Edit Family. And when I open it, I actually am going to have, in this case, the combination of 3 chairs. We'll say, well, why don't we see those 3? And that's because I have different options that I can do within this family that I can't necessarily do within the group, where I'd have to keep switching the group. But in here, I can see that I'm going to have option 1, option 2 for how this group is being handled. So what I'll do is now, instead of using this group, I'll actually use the family. So I'm going to pull this group out and put the family in. It's still doing the same thing that I had before, but now that I have different options, I'll come over here to my type pull down, and instead of doing option 1, I can say, oh, I've got option 2, and show it without the other table and chair, or look at other option 3 with those on and off. in here. So I've got the different ways of showing this, and now I've got another one where I can add more chairs to it. This is a lot more flexible for us and for Revit. I can still rotate it just like I would everywhere else. And the fact that it's a family, I just switch the families out. So if I have more than one of these, I just switch the families, do a select all, and switch it, and they all update. So it's nothing that I need to that I would lose if I wasn't doing a family. If I was doing this as a group, I'm not losing anything by doing it in a family. In fact, I think I'm gaining a lot more out of it that I can now have a lot of time to explore it and change it. So look at different alternatives. Revit understands families better. It constructs it by family. So this is a much better option than trying to come in and do group 2 or 3 pieces of furniture together or group a bunch of stuff together to get those things selectable or get them to react to different things I want to. And another example might be is maybe I want to keep moving this piece of furniture around, or I'm going to use this different set of storefront window configurations that I need to do. Well, if all I want to do is select these, and when I'm move them around, another alternate would be to make them a selection set. So now that I have more than one object selected, I actually can come over here to the selection sets, and I can save and label this. So in this case, I'm just going to do this as a counter. Now, this doesn't make a group, but what it does do is allow me to pull this up later on. So if I'm like, gee, I really need to select that counter again, I'll just come over, I can just go to my Manage tab and go into Load the Selection Set, select Counter, and now I've got all those pieces selected. And I can move them around. And they're still separate pieces. They're still casework pieces. It's not like they're grouped or anything. They're still 4 separate pieces, a countertop and 3 bases. So I'm just going to hit undo, bring that back to where it was. But you can see this makes it very easy for me to go in and select anything that I want within my project. I know other people are thinking like, well, how else do I get to this? Well, if you select more than 2 objects, I can also go in and I must have hit undo a little too many times. But I'll just come in here. Let me redo one more time. That way I got that selection set. But yeah, load that in, and I just grab that, and I've selected those 3 pieces. And that makes it very easy to do.
Ryan, we have a quick question here from Thomas. Would you suggest using 2D lines for the plan view instead of 3D objects?
A related question. Thomas, I'm not sure if you're asking for groups or for families, but I'm assuming families. When I'm making families, yes, there's no reason that we have to use 3D work. Good, families. So yeah, I could go in and make a family with 2D line work. In fact, one of the families I use is a generic. I'll start with a generic model, and then change it to something that is a piece of furniture or something. But the nice part about it is that if I start with that 3D family and draw 2D line work, the advantage I get is that in a 3D view, I still see that 2D line work flat on the ground, so it still shows me that chair, that other pieces. And it's a great workflow, and I see a lot of people using this in their office, and there's not a problem with it. It's going to save you a lot on memory and usage and time and how fast it takes to process things, how fast it takes to render a view. If you're just using line work, that's totally acceptable. I think it's a great way to go. And the fact that you have that line work as a family is now we can add parameters to it. I can add equipment numbers. I can put different sizes.
Finishes.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Broyer chair.
Yeah. All that stuff. And then what we're looking at, the different tags. So setting this up for offices is a great way to go. There's no reason that we need to make everything 3D in a lot of our work. A lot of our work is just for making construction documents. Does everything need to be 3D? No. And that's a great question. Is yes, we can go in and just make 2D line work and get that done with that. Uh-oh. All right, so moving on with next part, selection sets. I just want to say, you think of that as an option that you can get in there and use for that for our stuff. Okay, so now getting back to the groups, you know, bad group, this wasn't great. I'll make a family. Maybe make a selection set if you don't want to make a family. So just have that if you just need to pick those different objects in there. Obviously, this isn't going to update, but that's fine. It's just a way of selecting those objects that I need to get it done. The point being is I don't want to make a group, especially if it's a group of one. I don't like groups of one. If you're going to make groups, you're going to make them for multiple things. That's what groups mean. A group of one. What is that? Isn't that it? A group of one. One group. I don't know. It just bugs me. Make a group. For what? One object. Oh, that's fun. Oh, I'll get off my soapbox for a second. Okay. So we can go in and make a group of links. So after we've played with our project for a while, maybe we want to go in. We're starting to get in the end of schematic. We're design development. We're starting looking towards CDs. These rooms aren't going to change around. Well, I can go in and change this and make this a unit plan. So let me double check something real quick in here. And I think, yeah, this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select this unit A, and I'm actually going to save this out as a link, and it's going to tell me elements going to be deleted, these particular elements here, because they're no longer going to be part of the group. So that's going to be one of the things that we need to look at as we're going through this. Okay, I'm going to lose this functionality of it, but if I'm in schematic design, do I really need to be tagging these all the time in there? Maybe I'm just doing one. I can worry about tagging it later on. That's something we'll have to work out. So now I'm going to go in and replace it. Go in and it says, how do you want to convert the group? Replace it with a new or replace it with an existing project. I do have an existing one in here, but I'm going to just select new just to show you what's going on, and then I'll cancel out of this, but you'll see what's going to happen. I'll hit replace. I basically pick where it's going to go. It's going to save it as the same group name. So in this case, and I'm not going to save it here, it'll call this link Unit A. And then it'll make this particular one a link at that point. So let's pretend I did that. I got it done. I don't want to replace the one that's in there, and it'll be a link at that point. So now that I converted this over to the links, I'm going to switch over to these two guys, which happen to be my links, and this is the result that we're going to get. Now, in this particular link file, what I have in here is I put the rooms in and stuff. So one of the things we get into is now that we have in links, we're going to have to get in a situation where we got a little bit of workflow. Where can you be in a link and a group at the same, or can you be in the link and the host file at the same time? No, not necessarily, unless you start unloading the links in there and working outside of that in some regards. But I'll do this right now. I'm going to go in and actually open up the link in here. Let me get cancel real quick. I'll actually go to where I have it, and I'll go into the link, and it says, you know, the link file is open in one or more documents. Opening it in the current session will unload the link. I'll just hit yes, and unloading cannot be undone. That's fine. I'll show you how to reload that. So I've opened this up. I've got this in here, and I'll go back to the entry level. We'll see that here is that link that we made, okay? I've made different rooms in here, so I got a bathroom, a closet, everything else. I've got the plan inside, and you can see here is that link file. I've got the openings in here showing where those are at, and we can see it all in 3D. So I'll spin it around real quick. But there we have our little shell of our unit, and that looks great. We get the drywall's there. I can label the rooms. Got this all working out of here, so it becomes a really nice workflow within our project. I'm just going to turn on some ambient shadows here just to make it look a little prettier than before. Whoops. So I've got these different projects, and now I can come in and deal with this as this. So maybe I want to come in, and later on I'm like, oh, I need to change the bed. Maybe it needs to be a twin for this room. I can go in there and do that as the different families.
I just keep looking at this motel, and I just think, oh, Lord.
This is a pretty dreary motel. Don't worry, I got a surprise for you all at the end. No. You've all recognized this hotel. I know you do. And so I've got this bed and stuff in here. I've laid it all out. I've made the changes. So now I have to maintain the changes in two files. So I'm going to go back to the other file while this is open, and you'll see that it's unload those links. Those link files are not in here. Okay, so they become unhosted, not really unhosted, but unloaded for the moment. And if we go back to our Insert tab or the Manage tab, I can go to the Manage Links and see that they are not loaded. I could hit reload. I can't do it right now because I'm in the file, but I hit reload. It reloads those links inside, and that makes it pretty nice to do. So I'm going to jump back in the other file real quick. I'm going to close out of this one. Yeah, I'll save the changes in here. Now I'll come into here, and I'm just going to go in and reload my links. Hit OK. There they are. I've got that nice little bed in there that we've changed it around to. So I've got this thing inside. And one of the things I want to point out is that I did have these things tagged as far as the different pieces of the furniture in there. I did not do the toilets. I forgot to do that. But I do have the sinks and other stuff in here. And what's nice, now that we're in 13 and in 12, we can actually tag through these. So I'm going to come inside, and if I grab a particular piece, in this case the sink, I can tag through the link files now. I can go into the rooms in there, and you saw I had a closet, so I'll go in here and go to the room tag, and I can actually, if I can get in here, I'm getting the, oh, I can't do it. Why can't I tag the rooms that I saw in the other drawing? Great question to myself. No, I'm just kidding. If we get in here and we go to edit type, I need to turn on the room bounding. I need to do this to define a room. So I just selected that link. I go into the room type. Wow, I was really drag this out. I go in here. I select room bounding. I hit OK. And now you'll see, hey, it's got the colors for the room in there. And this one's kind of lowered down and just bound itself inside that chipboard area. So now I'll go in here, go to the room, not the room tag. Room tag, I can now tag this little closet inside. So you can tag inside the individual rooms by selecting on the parts you want. If I want the bathroom, I can come in here and do the bathroom. And you'll see this one's picking up room 6 until I get in and get to the room I want because I added room 6 in here. So that makes it great. Now we can tag inside, we can do keynotes, we can do all this other stuff in there within our project. So great workflow. We've now made a group, a link. So let's say we want to go in and we want to change these groups over here back to, we want to change these groups that already exist in the file. So these first two are Unit A's in here. Well, the way I'll get that done, this is kind of a nice workflow, I'll come back to the linked file, I'll grab this link, and over here at the top you're going to see bind link. And when I make a bind link, it makes the link a group. So I just go bind link. It's going to ask what I want to do. I'm going to attach the attached details. The levels and the grids are fine. They're not going to change from one to the other. I'll hit OK, and what will happen is it's going to ask me, do I want to change these and replace the existing groups? Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I hit yes, and what will happen is we'll see all these change over, and I now have these with the twin beds inside. Okay, so now we've come over and we've made our links groups. We made a group a link. And this becomes a nice workflow for that. So again, if I want to go in here and change something in this, I can go into, well, I'm going to hit delete rooms for a second just to delete that one out of there, but we can see, whoops, don't want to do that. Now I'll go back into this group, and I'll come inside and I'll edit the group, and maybe I want to come in and make this chair change that I had before. So I'll come in here, rotate it around, maybe I want to move this guy up a little bit just to change it up a little bit. When I'm done, I finish, it changes all those. That's great. And now if I come in here, I can actually select this group and go back and make it a link. It's telling me elements will be deleted because I'm going to lose my tag that's already in here. I'll hit OK. Replace it with the new project, and I'll just go into my secret place where all this is located. I need to go find it. I should have gotten in there. So I got presentations and my webinars. Go in here. Save it under the same name. As it says, you've chosen a file to save over. I hit yes, and I've now saved that link file.
Okay, Brian, while you're making those rooms even more desperate, Matthew has a question here. What will happen to the rooms in the host file, not the linked file, when the link is changed or removed?
When the link is changed or removed. If you're tagging Well, if the rooms are part of the link, then the rooms don't exist in here. They're actually part of the link file. So if you remove them from the link file, so let me finish this up real here, and I'll answer that question. So in this case, I have one. In all these plans, I'll start with 4, which doesn't have it. All these plans have a room in it. It's part of the master, and that's where it says unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, all that stuff. So there's a room, actual room in the project. Okay. If I were to come and delete this link, there's still a room in here, and this room exists in the project. Okay. If I go into the link file, so if I'll now go in and open that link file, you'll see, and I want to point out that you'll see all the link stuff has changed. So anything that was linked has been changed now, and the group has been changed. I'll go to that link file. It's going to tell me it's going to unload these. I'll hit yes. Cannot be undone. We already know we can fix that. I'm now into this file, and if I get back into my view of my floor plans in here, we can see that we have our rooms. So here's a room here, here's a room here, here's another room here. I'm going to go in and tag those real quick so that we can see. I got a bath, I got a closet, I got a main room. That's the name. They're not called units. It's just bath, closet, and main room for each one of those. So I guess to answer your question is that if you remove the link, these 3 rooms here, the main room, the closet, and the bathroom, would be gone. They don't exist because the link's not there. There's nothing to tag. So in this case, I have a room that defines the whole unit that in this case I put into the main model. And then I have rooms within each unit link that define the spaces or the individual rooms that are part of the unit. So hopefully, Matthew, that kind of explains it to you. If the link disappears, these 3 would disappear, but the main one would remain. Main one would remain. Mm-hmm. I'm on board with it. So here I have the link file for it. I make my changes, I load it back in, and it's going to update. All right. So that kind of wraps things back up in here as far as a workflow that helps get into this. And again, we could keep embellishing on this and going more and more on this grouping and linking. What I was trying to hopefully get across today is that you can use this workflow in your schematic design, in your design development, and then in the CDs, we can start looking at making it links and getting it in there, really cutting down that file size. We want to be able to manage those big projects, and the way you're going to successfully get that done is with linking. Groups slow the project down. But since the groups is a great workflow, we need to find a way of dealing with that workflow that helps carry that through the process. I like the idea that during schematic design, I change a wall, it changes everywhere. I don't have to open up a new file. I don't have to unload this link. That becomes time-consuming in there. But when we get closer to construction documents, I just want to have people doing their own thing. Now, there are problems with links when someone's in the other file. You've got to be able to make sure that the master file everything's being done in isn't being messed with other links being introduced and dropped in. That becomes a lot of coordination. This isn't like it's a magic bullet, I've just solved everything. But one thing I have done by talking about links is cut down on the time it takes to manage a file and even open it to even work in it because the groups just inherently slow it down. So I want to get us into different workflows. Other things to think about, the selection sets. Maybe you just want to, you're using groups for just to select things so you have them together using that. Maybe you're using groups when you should be using families. You know, going in, learning how to do families better. And we saw that table and chair from the last example, and I'm just going to close out of this one in here, that I can just make really easy within my project. So here I don't have the links. I'll just simply go in to my Insert tab under Manage. Whoops, not the point clouds. And get in there, whoa, get into Manage. And I'll just simply select it and say Reload. Reloads those in. I've got them inside. I've updated it. We want to avoid these groups in here that we can do easily with families, and we just come in and use the families. And this family is really simple. All it is 2 families loaded inside. This is one family I can edit, and then the table is another family I can edit. So just a really simple family we can do. We can provide ourselves with other options within there, load in the project, and make different updates. So that's hopefully a nice workflow for dealing with those different projects. Other alternates I'll see just to throw on in there is that I've seen a lot of people use Storefront, where there's actually window types out there they might be able to use. So if I had a really modern storefront window in here, I actually have a window type that I can use instead that would function a lot easier, and then you're just going in and controlling that family to get things done. One of the reasons we do use Storefront and group it is that it doesn't come up for a really nice way of doing a window schedule on its own. So as a group, we can then put it on our sheets, dimension it, doing a lot of other nice things as in a legend that we don't get a chance to do with the storefront itself, or we have to do an elevation and crop it down to get that done. Yeah, we'll try to explore some of these other ideas in here as far as other things we can do. So it sounds like everybody's been real attentive. At least I've got most people in here inside, and I've got a question here. So Brian, so I guess Brian is going to talk about links versus groups from architect's perspective. Yes, because I'm an architect. That's what I know in here. And getting in the MEP stuff, I've got a lot of questions coming in for that. I'm going to put together another webinar for the MEP portion, or we'll talk to Tony about setting one of those up. We got a lot of questions coming in for that, and that's another workflow issue getting into here. There's other things that inherently I don't like about the MEP portions, as far as I have to host the ceilings, and I have a lot of issues with ceilings that have to be either done with roofs or with walls that ceilings just aren't functioning well with. But a lot of things that have been a great workflow with the MEP portion is now I can reconcile things that are unhosted and stuff, which is a great issue, at least a great workflow that we did not have in the past. That wasn't available. You just kind of lost everything in there. And now at least it becomes unhosted, we can rehost it. So we'll look to putting in something else together. I'll talk to Tony about the MEP stuff. But as a general workflow for setting up, designing your project, putting this all together, I think this is a very nice way to go. So now I'm going to come back in here and see what we do, wrap this back up. So in here we looked at using the model groups, the detailed groups within our project, which is great. We could put those in there, and then we can go in, and after we've gotten our workflow down, we've got the project all together, we'll go out and create a link from that group. Then we can manage it separately, and when we're done with that, we can then bind the link back in and to update the group, or we can make the group and create a link from it and go back and forth and constantly change the groups and the links. But at some point, we got to commit to what we're going to do with these. Identifying the pros and the cons with the groups and the links. Within that, basically, groups slow the project down. That's probably the most biggest thing with it. They're a great workflow, but you've got to put walls in. And we saw a solution for walls was just going in and doing like a chipboard solution for that, so that we can put those walls out there, and it makes a really nice workflow for working with these. And then looking at different other things that are available to us. Looking at our families, nested families that are put in there. And then selection sets, things of that. We had a question come up, can we do 2D line work? Yes, by all means you can. We can see that we can tag through these elements, and that becomes a really great workflow in here. And just to give you guys a little bit of a sense of the kind of the hotel we were going for, there you go. So that's, yeah, there's a little Norman there in the window waiting for us. So that's kind of what we model this out of.
Yes, this webinar will be recorded. It will be posted on our website and our YouTube page probably within the next week. So you can go to CAD-1 events webinar archives and find it and watch it all, you darn well please. And yes, we will get one of these for a similar webinar for the MEP group here. Sorry for those of you who feel like you may have wasted your time today, but we will get that done for you. And anything else, Brian?
No, just to say a big thank you. I did a little bit of research, Revit forums, Augie, Autodesk Help, Aaron Mahler, Brian Mackey, Michael Calkins for helping me out on that, and our clients too. A lot of this came from a lot of research, and this has just been a hot topic that I wanted to cover and kind of threw some stuff together. Hopefully, this gives you something to work out of. And there's definitely more that we can cover with this topic. I think we're just barely scratching the surface here, but hopefully you all gain something from this.
And I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, and Steven Spielberg for today. Thank you.
All right.